Hi, everyone, and welcome once again to one of our Hobby Memorial Library / Mayborn Science Theater partnership, our night sky tour with CTC Astronomer Warren Hart. And he's going to talk to us. Hey, Warren. He's
Hey,
gonna hey, he's gonna talk to us today about what's going on in our June and a little bit of May night sky tour. So, hi, Warren. We are ready
hello,
to
hello.
learn.
Okay, let's bring up the May calendar, if you would, Cindy, and we want to scroll down to the second page and go on down. There you are. We're on the fourth week of May, and right there in the very center on May the 25th, all of that in red, that's we're talking about what we're doing today. And that I'll be talking about the June constellations there. I just wanted you to, for those who are watching, as a refresher on what's going to be still available for the end of May. And I've also included on that calendar page, there's the link for you to get on the Facebook uh, page for the presentation. Now, if you look over on Saturday of this coming weekend, is when I will be doing my monthly night sky tour of the constellations and the events in the next month. So that is for June, as you see. And we have a massive amount of number of constellations, actually only 5.5. But anyway, so what I'll be doing there, and just for those who haven't been on here before, I encourage you to come to the planetarium show that evening. It's at 5 o'clock, as you see, from 5 to 6. And I can do some things there in the planetarium I cannot do here. And one of them is when we go through the list of the constellations, I will show everyone there how to find them and to follow down the path of all of those constellations. And also, I'll mention, pardon me, I'll mention there about Corona Borealis uh, there on that day on Saturday, and that is available for us to see. Then the last week there, and Cindy, let's just go ahead and change over to the June calendar
And
because,
while I'm doing that, I just want to remind everybody if you've never been to that planetarium dome, it is amazing. So go ahead.
sure,
I'm in June.
okay, good, good. I have a lot of information there in the darker area because that's the end of May, and I've talked about that. And what I put in there are where the planets and the sun is as we would start this next calendar. So you can see those that pieces that information there. And I would bring to your attention that on Monday of next week, Memorial Day, in the early morning will be our new moon, and that's starting there. And then there are listed on Monday the 30th, there are two constellations, Triangulum Australe and the Apis, the bird of paradise. And however, unfortunately, you notice underneath, those are not visible to us, not any portion of them here at CTC because we are too far north and they are too far south. So don't intend to go outside and Warren said I should see it and you can't find it and then you are ready to send me a scathing email. Well, you can't see it from here, and I've already uh, given you the heads up. And then there's when the planet Venus enters a certain constellation. There's on Tuesday the 31st. There is Saturn also, and Uranus there. I am posting on the calendar when when each planet and the sun, when they go into a different constellation, and that's just for your information if you'd like to keep track of them. So we're going to start now here on June the 1st, and you notice I have in red, it is 677 days until our total solar eclipse here at our planetarium and here at the campus and this part of the area here. And I've also, it's back on today is 7 days more, so it'd be 684 days from today and 677 from uh, the uh, Wednesday of June the 1st, that first day there.
There's that exact calendar on the Astronomy LibGuide. This is where we're getting all these constellation maps and calendars, but there is the exact time.
There you go. And you notice it's a countdown calendar
Mhm.
that Cindy has put on there, so you can click at any time if you're interested as far as as we keep getting closer. Appreciate that, Cindy. So, also, we have on the 1st of June, our moon, we're going to be able to see here. It is what we call an apogee moon. And what that means, it is far away from us. And so when it's far, then it gets, well, I'll ask you, and if someone wants to call in, write in and tell me, is it larger or smaller than normal time? So it's the third farthest of all of the 13 apogee moons for time periods for this month. Now let's look, if you will, and then on what I've mentioned earlier, there on Thursday the 2nd here, and I'm telling you about planet Mars, and notice it's going to be entering a constellation called Cetus, known as the sea monster or the whale. And the other thing I mentioned is that it is an equatorial constellation, which means the area for Cetus straddles the equator in the sky, and that's all that means for you. Well, let's look down on the next week on Tuesday the 7th, and we're going to go from our new moon to our first quarter moon. And I've been putting up also another term. It's a rare term, normally not used, talking about a first quarter. But from what you see as you look at the moon that day, that night, or that morning, you will see it looks like it is divided between the illuminated side and the dark side. And the difference between the two looks like a vertical line that just cuts the moon right in half. And that's the idea of what a dichotomy is. What it means is some object or something is divided into two equal pieces. And that's all that's we're talking about there. And then on Wednesday the 8th, there is planet Mars, and it's moving, and it leaves, if you notice, we had up there earlier that it was in Cetus, the whale, but now it's going to go into the next constellation of Pisces. And Pisces, that constellation, is two different things. It is equatorial, also straddling the equator, but it is And I notice I got it double there. That's my error. It is equatorial, and that's it. So for some reason, Warren, in his working out on here, got all befuddled, and I put it in twice. That means I messed up.
It's
So
really equatorial.
it is really definitely equatorial, my error. But we go to the next on Thursday the 9th. Here is our first constellation actually for June, and that is Scorpius the Scorpion. And let's go ahead and let's take a look at that, if you would, Cindy. Here is our first page, as you see, and there's the equator up toward the top. So the scorpion is in the southern hemisphere of the sky, but we can see it. Notice the blue line going across from right to left, and that's the direction of the path of the sun. You see the sun listed over there and look up above on the 18th hour of for us there in the sky. And it says also something else, that the sun will be at the winter solstice at that time period as it's traveling along. But it's not there yet. We'll get that in when we're in December. But here's the constellation of Scorpius, and it's very significant for us. It's going to be the primary constellation to observe for our summer time period. And uh, it, it will be up, and once you recognize it, it's one of the few constellations that tends to look like in the sky what it is called. It's called a scorpion. And when you think about a scorpion, uh, you can picture in your mind what a scorpion looks like. And there you see its long tail, and there on the end of it, and numbers, stars 15 and 16 would be the stinger of the scorpion there. And so it's easy to find. It's a well-defined constellation, and you can use that. Now, if you look back up on the body right after where you see the pincers of the scorpion, they're a larger black dot. And to remind everyone, and for those who don't understand or haven't looked at pages like this, for us to describe to you how bright, and the word we would say its magnitude is, and you look at it in the sky, if it gets brighter, then the only way we can depict it on a flat sheet of paper is to make the black circle larger. So the larger the circle, the brighter that star would be and in there. However, this one on number 9 here is would also have a larger size. So let's scroll, Cindy, down to the second page. There we go. And right in the middle, as you go down, you see number 9, Antares, right there. And there's the information. Notice what I put in for us on that very first line. It is the largest star that can be seen with the naked eye without using binoculars or a telescope. And it is super big. And if you look back up to the first line of it, go across, there's its name, also its Greek name, Alpha Scorpii. There's its address, and there's its magnitude. It's 550 light years away, and there is How big is it? It's 492 times larger than our sun. And let's see, I have had it in the past. I don't have it here. Approximately how many of our own suns could you put inside Antares? And it will be, okay, scroll on down a little. Nope, I didn't get it in there on that. But anyway, it would be a number of million different stars of our sun that can go in there. And Antares, as you see on the last line of what I wrote, this title is a literal combination of two terms, anti, which means rival, and Ares, which is the name also for the planet Mars. Antares is also called the rival of Mars. Now let me ask you, what color is Mars, the planet, when you see it in the sky?
Red.
And what
Red.
color would you think then Antares would be if it's going to be the rival of Mars, and it's going to be good in brightness there? It will not look larger than Mars, but it's going to have another characteristic that makes it the rival of Mars. And I believe you should be able to figure that out. Okay, let's go back up to the first page of the Scorpion right there. And a reminder, please use the scientific name for this constellation. It is Scorpius. There is another name for it, but that is not a scientific name. It's another kind of name. And as astronomers, we don't use that other name. We use the scientific name. So I encourage you to use the scientific name. Enough said. Now, let's go on. That is Scorpius is going to be our main constellation, if you will, for the summer month. And so we're going to go and notice back to the calendar, Cindy, for June. And there on Saturday will be at 6:26 in the morning is the earliest sunrise of this year. So we will get a little bit more sunlight on that day. Now let's scroll down to the second page and let's go on over. And on Tuesday the 14th, again in the morning, we have something called a super full moon. Well, I wonder why we would call it that. And there's its phase, waning gibbous. But look down there. At 6:23 in the evening, it will be the second closest of the 14 perigee moons for this year. Remember we talked about earlier the apogee, and that was far away. And here we have the perigee, and that means close. And I've mentioned it before, and for the new people, I use the title perigee, and I think of the moon as being perilously close to Earth. Don't worry, we don't have to worry about that. But anyway, that's my mnemonic memory device to remind me that's perigee means close, so that means apogee means far away. And here it will be, and it will be, because it is so close, that it's going to be a super full moon. So the question is, will it be larger or smaller in size than normal? Let's press on. Let's go to Thursday the 16th, and there we have a constellation called Ophiuchus. And I've given two titles for it, and that's what I was intending for Scorpius, except I messed up. It is an ecliptical and an equatorial calendar. Scorpius is also an ecliptical, and unfortunately, my error, I only typed in equatorial twice. Uh, so we will have Ophiuchus as a constellation both on the ecliptic and on the equator. So let's look at Ophiuchus, if you would. Now, there you are. Now, first of all, we can see in the middle of the page, there is the brown line of the equator, and you see the whiter area on the map on the sky there. That is the area in the sky that the astronomers back in 1930 time period designated and said we need to establish the boundaries for each of the constellations. And so that's what they did. And this is the area, the spherical area in the sky for Ophiuchus. So since it straddles the equator, it is equatorial. And then down at his feet, there you see the ecliptic, that blue line going across that we saw there in the Scorpion. And so this constellation is also an ecliptical constellation. And look to the just to the bottom left of to the side of Ophiuchus, you see there's Scorpius, and so Scorpius is also an equatorial and an ecliptic constellation. So we have it there, and there is the path again, the sun in December, that's where it will be at midnight. Let's go on down and take a look at the second page of Ophiuchus. And there's not a whole lot of things that are significant for us. There's a lot of stars for us, and looking there's no Messier objects or Caldrail objects, so it's just a very basic constellation that we have on there. So we can scroll back up to the first page, and we see it there, and there's the naming of them. If you look on it, look over on the far right-hand side of the page, and you see Ophiuchus with his left arm and hand. By the way, Ophiuchus is facing us, so we're looking at his chest and his stomach and all that area. So that is on the left of, to the right there, him facing us. That is his left arm and his hand. And then you notice something is in green, but it's dashed. Well, that's from last month. That is Serpens caput, which means in Latin, the head of the serpent. Aha. And now look over to the left side of Ophiuchus. There is his right arm and hand, and you see there is another dashed line, and it's labeled Serpens Cauda, and that is the serpent's tail. The serpent is the only constellation in the sky that is divided up into two separate segments, areas in the sky. So that's why I say we have 5 1/2 constellations in June. We had 9 1/2 constellations in May. And that's both of those are because of the portion of the serpent, and for you to find it. And I will point out how to find Ophiuchus and both the head and the tail of the serpent in the planetarium this Saturday. Okay, let's see what we have next. We have we've gone to now to our super full moon, and we've also looked at Ophiuchus. There's another statement about planet Venus moving. And then we go to our next constellation, our third one for the month of June, and that is Hercules. Uh, and it could be either the hero or the son of Zeus. And as you see there, and here he is. And as we look on there, guess what? The equator is down at the bottom of the page. So this is not an equatorial constellation, and we don't find the ecliptic on here, so it's not an ecliptical constellation. It's just a basic constellation. Now, here is what he looks like in the sky as we go there, and you would see, up above, there's his arm. Again, he's facing us, and got something in that right hand and arm, something big, and if you want, that could be a sword or club, whatever there. And he come down, and then you notice as the connecting on his neck going down to his other arm and hand, and there to the right is the four corners, if you will, of what we would say is his head. And then there's the rest of the body. However, there is a specific name given to the head of Hercules. So let's find out what that is. And let's scroll down to the second page. And there you have in there, there's a description, if you will, of the constellation, talking all about going on there. But if we go down below all the list of the stars, notice there's something called an asterism. There it is, Asterisms, an asterism. An asterism is a technical word in astronomy, and all that means is somebody has chosen to connect in the sky a multiple number of stars and is going to call it something. And that's what has happened when we got our constellations. Constellation, con, with a bunch of stars, and that makes up our constellation. Well, here we have something, it's called the butterfly, but also the keystone. A keystone. For those of you that are familiar with picturing in your mind, or you have on property, or you've seen a stone arch made up of different pieces of stone, of brick, the very top one in the arc of the arch there is what is called the keystone. And it has to be, if you want to say, shaved on its bottom part of it on the side, so it fits in there in between the stones on the right and on the left. Without a keystone, then you would have a problem uh, making the arch stable, and so it has to be narrowed on the bottom part of it to fit in between there the part of the arch on both sides. And I will show everybody there in the planetarium this Saturday where and how to find the keystone. And once you find it, it's very easy and you remember where it is. All right, let's go back to the calendar, if we would, please. And where we are in Hercules over there for our Saturday, let's go to our next week, our fourth week. And here is Constellation of Ara, the altar. And let's go to it, if you will. And on our page of Ara the altar, notice we have, and note, if you will, look up above on the left side of there, it says minus 40 degrees, and then the next line down, minus 50, minus 60, and all. So we are definitely in the southern hemisphere. The equator is way up above us on the chart there. And notice there's another line partway down in the constellation, a dashed brown line, and that is our southern horizon, which means there, if you look over to the right-hand side, the right corner, bottom right corner of the constellation drawn out, and you see a little star labeled 3, and then another star labeled 4, and another star labeled 14. We will be able to see on a clear night, looking to the south, we can see clear down to star number 3. And so we can see the top 14 degrees of the constellation of Ara the altar. The other part, we cannot see number 4, nor can we see number 14, because they are below our southern horizon. So these are things you begin to learn about what's the limit that you can see in the sky, specifically how far south can you see, but up in the north you'll be able to see. And there's another thing, is how much will you be able to see every night? And that's another thing we're going to talk about here in just a moment. So let's go back to the calendar. We have here, we can see the 14 degrees there of it, and on day 19. There on the 20th is our third quarter moon, and it's just the reverse of what it looks like in the sky from the first quarter, that the illuminated side of the moon looks like it's on the left, and the dark side would be on the right, and that's the opposite of when we see the first quarter moon. It's just the reverse. Now, let's also, we go to the 21st, and we have something else that's going to happen that day, and it's something that's called the solstice. And look what I put in there for you. The sun is the furthest north of the equator this year. Now, at that point and at that time in the sky, then we choose that point then designates the end of the season called spring and the beginning of the season we call summer. So that is along the ecliptic, and so the furthest the sun goes to the north in the year is when this happens. We go from spring to summer. The reverse will be in December, when the sun will be the furthest south, and that will happen then that we leave the fall season and we enter the winter season. So that's what we have there. And then you see underneath there is the sun. As it moves, it goes into the equatorial constellation of Gemini, the twins. Look over on Saturday, the 25th. We have a number of things. First, you'll see I've got mentioned that on that Saturday evening, and there that it's going to be our night sky tour, and I'll be talking about July. So we have it on there. And then Draco the Dragon we have is our constellation. So we'll go to Draco, if you would, on our page.
While I'm fighting to get this here, I always believed that the solstice was the longest day of the year. So is that not true?
It is not necessarily. It will be like we have here a few days earlier, and at times it will be a few days afterwards. There is a certain point that you would be probably, it would be right on there in London. I'm just guessing right now of when you would have the actual longest day. And what happens is it depends on your latitude. So if you were at the equator on that day, and you're probably going to be out at sea, it would be the longest, and we say the longest day, more to me, more correctly, we will have the longest amount of daylight. We still have a 24-hour day.
Right.
Right. But
Right.
you would not be surprised how many people say, "Oh, well, that's a longer day." Well, what do you mean? Well, it's more than 24 hours. No, it's the longest day light.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
So when we go to December, the winter solstice, the same thing, we will have the least amount of daylight in the winter. Good
That makes
question
sense.
and statement that you
Makes
made
sense.
there, mentioned there, Cindy. Good. So here we have, and now we have Draco, and it is our northernmost constellation for the month here of June. Notice I have another brown line dashed around it, and it says, the lower limit of Central Texas College Planetarium's circumpolar region. Now, what in the world does that mean? Well, let me point out for you. Look down at the bottom there where all the lines come together, and you see that blue circle there, and then the crosshairs. And then I mentioned to the right, that is our northern celestial pole, our north pole in the sky. And if you look just underneath to the left or to the right just a little bit, we will say at the 5 o'clock position, a black circle there, that's Polaris. And nope, I didn't make a mistake. Polaris is not right on the northern celestial pole. And the reason we use Polaris is because it is the brightest uh, uh, star that you can see at night that is the closest to the actual North Pole in the sky. Polaris, all that means is it's Latin for pole star. And its full name would be in Latin Polaris Borealis, which means it is the northern pole star. And yes, there is a Polaris Australis, which means the southern pole star. But just by convenience, and we just call it Polaris. So Polaris has some other names. When you go on and type in for Polaris, you will see there's a whole bunch of other names that are given to it. But just for convenience and also for most everybody would know or be thinking of, oh, Polaris, okay. That's its name for another couple centuries, and then it's not going to be Polaris anymore because another star will be moving in to closer to be the new Polaris. So Polaris is only designating what star is the closest to either the North Pole or the South Pole that you can see with your eyeballs, not using binoculars or using a telescope. And that's all that means there. So let me get on to this. If we take that line there, the horizontal line for going left and right across there at the intersection for the North Pole in the sky. And we're going to go up, a little more than 30 degrees. Actually, it's about 31 degrees and just a touch. So go with me as you would point in the sky there. You see that first circle part of it, and that up from the pole up to there is 10 degrees. So the North Pole in the sky is 90 degrees. The circle up there is 80 degrees up there. Let's go on up to the next one. And we go to the next one up there where it's by Ursa Minor where it's written. And we've gone another 10 degrees. So we're now at 20 degrees. We're going to go way on up and we're going to the circle that has 5, 6, and 7 right there on it. And that is 30 degrees. And our latitude here at Central Texas College is 31 degrees and 6 minutes, or 31.1 degrees. So I figured out and I put that dashed line there, and that is the limit of our circumpolar region. Okay, now what does that mean? It means that everything inside of that brown dashed line, clear to the North Pole there in where Polaris would be, you will be able to see every night of the year. And that's why it's called circumpolar. Circum means to, as a circle, to surround, and polar, of course, you're surrounding the pole, the North Pole in the sky. And the size, if you want to call that, of how much of the sky can you see every night of the year looking north, it depends on your latitude. Where are you from the equator? Picture in your mind, if you and I, all of us, if we went down to the equator, we would have no circumpolar anything. If we come up to, well, let's say to Mexico City, I'm just going to take her there at 10 degrees north. Well, no, we're going to come up to the Panama Canal at 10 degrees. And if you were there, then your circumpolar area would be only that little 10-degree circle. If we went up to Mexico City at 20 degrees, I'm just using these as reference names, then there your circumpolar region would be 20 degrees, all of that. We're at 30, and if you notice, if we were further north as we go there, then our circumpolar region gets larger and larger and larger. So I asked you as to think that we started out on the equator, and what did I say? There would be no circumpolar region. Well, let's go up and visit Santa Claus at the North Pole. And we go there to the actual North Pole. And if you want to lay down on your back there in the snow right at the pole and look up, everything is circumpolar. Your horizon at the North Pole is the equator. And so you would only see every night of the year everything north of the equator. And it would be going around in the sky, and I'm going to throw you on this, horizontally. Now, we'll talk about that at some other time. I've already got you all befuddled here, saying, what in the world is that? But just want you to know that what you see there of Draco the Dragon, everything, we're going to be able to see Draco the Dragon. That's no problem. But certain time of the night or the days, the nights as we go along, you're going to lose and you will not be able to see the head of the dragon, uh, the stars 13, 14, 9, and 10. They will go below our northern horizon. This is in relation to the northern horizon. Okay? Now, if you have questions on that, write in and we'll see if we have time that I can answer more for you. Okay, let's look back at the calendar, Cindy. And we have now, we had a super full moon, and guess what? We're on the 28th. On Tuesday, the 28th, we're going to have a micro new moon. Micro would mean something small, yes, and it's going to be smaller than the average that we have there. And so that's another one. And of course, the thing is, you can't see a new moon because we are looking at its backside. And so, unfortunately, it's there, but you can't see it. So let's get to Wednesday the 29th. Got a lot of info here. Uh, now we have our second apogee of the month. Notice, and here this is the farthest of all 13 apogee moons. Oh, so this is the one that's the farthest away. And you can figure out in your mind, will it be large or small compared to the others? And then here is our next time we get together. We normally would want to be on the Wednesday prior to the planetarium for my presentation, but we have a conflict already on the 22nd. And so Cindy and I have agreed that we're going to do it on Wednesday night, the 29th. So it will be after. That's just can't help that because of a conflict on the 22nd. So come to the planetarium, and then you can come to my talking, and that will be for the finishing up there of the July, if you will. So now look down, and we have our last constellation, Serpent's Cauda. And here it is. Remember, we talked about it, and you see there is that the tail of the serpent, and notice right above the top part of the green line there is Ophiuchus. So Ophiuchus, the serpent wrestler, is there on the right side of the chart, the map, and then way on over further to the right would be the head of the serpent called Serpens caput, the head of it. Well, let's go back to the calendar. That wraps up our 5.5 constellations. And then, Cindy, notice what's on the 30th of June, the latest sunset of the year. And that split is because of our latitude. So if you can go back to the page, the second page of the calendar there, and let's see if we have, and we can scroll up. Okay, going up to the first page, and there you go. Okay, there over on the right, on Saturday the 11th is the earliest sunrise of the year for our latitude. And then you go down on the second page, and there is the latest sunset of the year. And unfortunately, they don't happen on the same time because it's where we are. And then you notice July the 1st will be 647 days until the total solar eclipse. Okay, any questions, comments?
So we're going to have 3 longest days in
There
3
you go.
weeks.
Yeah,
So get those extra hours in on those days, right?
daylights.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
So.
all right.
Oh, well, okay, and before we go, thank you once again, Warren,
Well, you're
for all
welcome.
of the fun, amazing information that you give us every month. Before we go, guys, I just want to remind you of a couple of upcoming events. On Wednesday, June the 8th, we have the 3 R's of safety and environment: reduce, reuse, and recycle. It's Fort Hood's Environmental Science Group that's coming again to talk to us about what we can do for our environment. And then on June 22nd, we're going to be doing an event with a CTC photography professor, Julie Andrada, and she's doing a summer photo walk where we're going to be walking around campus, and she's going to be talking about how you can do the very best photography. You have to register for this. This one will be in person. Alyssa put the link to register in the comments. And what we'll do, we've got it set from 9:30 to 10:30. We're going to go ahead and just film it when it's taking place in person rather than live stream. And then we're going to upload the filmed version in the middle of the day that day. So if you want to, get with Professor Andrada and find out some really cool stuff, you can bring your camera and just come take pictures with us that day. And that will be June 22nd. So that's all I had to say, Warren.
Okay, appreciate it. Appreciate your help.
Okay, well, you guys, y'all have an awesome day today. Enjoy. It's a little bit cooler. Enjoy the little bit cooler weather
Yeah, right.
because
And no
it's going to get a lot hotter.
lightning and thunderstorm tonight.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's because we'll be closer to the sun, right?
That's right. That's right.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see y'all next time. Thank you. And you
See you
guys have an
now.
awesome day. And Alyssa, if you
Bye-bye.
will take us out.